Good afternoon, MPUL. So glad to be with you today for this very important lecture for your great organization. The last time I was with you, we spoke about soft skills for leaders. We talked about things like self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, all those different things. Today, we're going to talk about leadership in a pandemic, building resilience. Leadership in a pandemic, building resilience. We know that we're living in stressful times due to COVID-19. Many companies have begun to shift. There are several other things going on within companies, with leaders, with employees and such. But we know that leadership principles never fail. If we follow these principles, we will see the results that we want to see. So today, very quickly, for your great organization, I want to discuss with you leadership in a pandemic, building resilience. Now, we understand that there are critical tools needed for new realities. We live in a new reality. This is going to be the new normal. We all have figured that out. And so leaders and employees have to be empowered. Leaders still have to be empowered because it's so critical that we show resilience during this time. Not only the leadership, but employees also have to be empowered. And they have to be empowered through this process that we call resilience. And all that simply means is being able to bounce back, on the fly, being able to pivot. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, how you can begin to make some pivots to greater increase your productivity in the things that you do. Secondly, we're going to talk about shifting beliefs and behaviors. Shifting beliefs and behaviors. Some things that we may have thought before may not work in our new reality, but it may cause us to have to shift our beliefs and our behaviors. But that's okay because we're learning on the fly and we're learning to pivot. Then we're going to talk about building resilience, which is just simply being able to bounce back. How do you deal with struggle? How do you deal with this new reality that we're living in? That is resilience. You having the courage to keep going even in a new reality. So why resilience is critical? Resilience is critical because it builds courage and professionalism. Resilience is only built during times of challenge. We can only find out if your company, if your leadership principles are based on resilience when they run into some type of challenge. Every company has had some type of challenge, something that they had to tweak a little, something that they maybe had to change. So we're all facing challenges. We're all facing hurdles and roadblocks, but resilience is what gets us over. Can be developed and strengthened through developing basic techniques of self-awareness and self-management. What I talked about last time I spoke to your organization was self-awareness. Are you self-aware that you need to build your resilience during this time? Do you have enough self-awareness to know that things have changed and that you have to change with it as well? It creates a sustainable cadence in an ever-changing world that has changed. This world is ever-changing. Businesses are ever-changing. And all of these different professions and careers, they're ever-changing. But resilience, I have discovered, is the thing that holds on when nothing else holds on, right? Because you can always find your courage through bouncing back. Let's look at the big idea. Starts with collaboration, supports networks, social context, manage perceptions. Collaboration is tied to vision. How do you build resilience? Collaborate. Have to have vision. This is the purpose, the goals, and the congruence of your leadership principles and your company. Composure, regulate emotions, interpretation bias, calm and in control. We have to be in control of the things that we're doing. That's that social awareness that we talk about. Tenacity. Does your company have tenacity? Persistence. Are you able to operate in persistence to keep going when things change on you, when things change and look so much different Do you have the persistence to keep going? Health, that's very important. Your nutrition, your sleep and your exercise, and your reasoning, which also is another soft skill. Problem solving. Are you resourceful? Anticipate and plan. These are the 6 domains of resilience. These are the 6 domains of resilience: collaboration, vision, composure, tenacity, help, and reasoning. All these things help us to build this critical skill that we call resilience. Be ready to pivot. This is very, very important. It's important that you pivot to meet your customers where they are by utilizing a combination of creativity, innovation, and proper use of technology. Even in my company, being an educational consultant, we haven't been able to go into schools and do in-house presentations like we once was able to do. So everything shifted to Zoom. So we had to learn some new things, some new technologies, some new vantage points to still get out the message in a new reality, because we're all living within a new reality. But you have to be ready to pivot. Are you able to pivot? New business models and success stories will be created from this pandemic. A lot of companies have gone under, but many find themselves thriving during this pandemic. What's the difference in the one that goes under and the one that's thriving? Maybe they made some tweaks. Maybe they shifted some things. Maybe, as I talked about in the first slide, their beliefs and their behaviors, right? They were ready to pivot. Change is inevitable. Are you ready to pivot? That's the question I want you to think about. Are you ready to pivot? If your company calls us for a pivot, are you able to make that shift and still be able to do the things that you need to do to be successful? So let's look at this. I wanted to show you a few profiles of success, those that have made pivots during this critical time. So here we have Celsius, which is a laundromat company there in Brooklyn, New York. During COVID, they made shifts, began to move things around, created a pickup service, created a delivery service with their company. And because of that, they're now thriving because they made a pivot during a pandemic. Fitbox is another company over here where she had to take her fitness online because customers could not come into her gym. So she made a pivot, created more videos to put online through Zoom and other spaces. And now her company is thriving even more than it was before COVID ever hit. But she was willing to make the pivot. Let's look at these 3 guys, 3 friends that grew up together. They're in Atlanta, Georgia, Slim and Huskies. Slim and Huskies created a new delivery service for their gourmet pizza business. And now they are thriving more than they ever have before. But they was willing to make the pivot on the fly. So I wore this particular shirt today for a reason. This is a brand created by an 11-year-old that I know, and this brand is called Options. And this young man at 11 years of age is now able to make thousands of dollars a month selling his own T-shirts, his own wristbands, his own socks, his own hats to kids like himself that play sports. And the thought behind it was that you have options. You can be the scholar athlete, but you still have options: basketball, football, baseball, track, soccer. You have options. So just taking that simple idea, he's been able to create residual income at 11 years of age. But it took him simply learning that you have to sometimes pivot in a pandemic. Last slide. Be resilient. Be resilient. This is what I want to leave you with. John Maxwell says, how you view things will determine how you do things. How you view things will determine how you do things. How are you viewing this time? How are you looking at it? Is it making you bitter or better, right? Is it making you better? Are you learning? Are you still taking in the skills that you're going to need moving forward to be productive within your company, within your career? Are you taking in the skills that will give you the proper success? Are you still doing professional development, watching the right videos, taking in the right media? All of this stuff matters. You have to be resilient. Don't beat yourself up. These are challenging times. We all have some type of challenge, some type of hurdle, but don't beat yourself up. Stay positive during this pandemic. Avoid the negative aspects that tend to pull you away from pursuing resiliency. If there's anything pulling you away from pursuing resiliency, get it out of your space. Why? Because during this time, you have to stay positive. Take in the positive right now and not the negative, because you can still be successful during a pandemic. And lastly, be willing to adapt. That's what I talked about, pivot. Are you willing to adapt on the fly? Change is a fact of life, and adaptable people make the best of change when it occurs. Let me read that again. Change is a fact of life, and adaptable people make the best of change when it occurs. MPUL, that's what I want to leave you with. I hope I've said something to encourage you in your business, within your leadership principles, in your career. Let's be resilient. Resilience is simply learning how to bounce back when everything is chaotic around you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for having me.